and fostering Jewish life, representing hundreds of Jewish communities from across the continent. First of all, Mr. Mask, I really would like to thank you very much for the time you spend with this topic. I must say I feel comfortable saying that I have no doubt that you are against hate speech and anti-Semitism on X. And actually just having this conversation is important because it shows your commitment to the issue. Yeah. Having said that, and before the questions I have for you, I have a request for you. And I would say on behalf of the Jews of Europe, on January 22nd, in honor of the International Holocaust Remembrance Day, we are taking hundreds of European political leaders, Jewish leaders, and Holocaust survivors to the Auschwitz concentration camp. And I would like to ask you to join us for this visit, to walk there, to feel it, to understand it, because I think that this will be an important experience after which you will be able to feel for yourself the great sensitivity of the Jewish community to the issue of anti-Semitism and where it can ultimately lead to. What do you think about this idea before I go to my questions?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I am an avid student of history, so I'm very well aware of the the Holocaust and the sort of Auschwitz and Dachau and whatnot, and it's all the things that happened that were terrible. So this is certainly not new information for me. I don't need to visit Auschwitz to understand. I get it.
Well, not to understand, but to feel. It's quite different, I would say. I would appreciate if you could have it in mind and consider it. I really believe that will make something that you did not feel before. But just have it in mind. But back actually to the main topic.
No, I would say that I do feel it. To be fair, like I've seen the pictures. You see the pictures of the baby shoes, and that kind of thing. And it's like unbelievable. I mean, it's one is obviously filled with profound sadness to see that all these children were killed, and still have some of their belongings and see what remains.
Unfortunately, things that are clear to you, not necessarily clear to everyone. And therefore, again, I would say your visit to Auschwitz would be a very strong statement, not only of your personal commitment, but we all understand the important attentions that will be once you are there. So I would appreciate if you could have it in mind, because I really believe that your visit to Auschwitz, with all the attention that will come with it, will really could contribute a lot to the Holocaust awareness and the struggle to combat anti-Semitism. But back to the main topic.
I will seriously consider it. I just wanted to say that I'm very knowledgeable and about the subject, and I've seen many pictures, so it's not like I'm ignorant in any way here. But it could be helpful, perhaps, as an example to others.
I appreciate it. But back to the main topic. I think that we can all agree that the discussion here is not really about the importance of the fight against anti-Semitism versus the importance of maintaining freedom of speech, but on making sure that there is no spread of anti-Semitism whilst maintaining the right to freedom of speech. Mr. Mask, over 180 human and civil rights organizations from all around the world sent you a letter asking your platform to adopt the IRA definition of anti-Semitism that had already been accepted and adopted by thousands of governments and public bodies around the world. As far as I know, they have not received an answer so far. And my question is, will you be willing to adopt the IRA definition on your platform?
Well, I wasn't aware of this, that this has been sent to us, but I'm happy to take a look at it, and I suspect it's probably sensible, and it may already be what we're doing. So I apologize for not responding. I wasn't aware that we'd received such a thing. So, I think it's, why don't you just basically, reply to my text or something with a link to that, or reply to my post on the X platform, I should say, with a link to that, and or share it otherwise, and I'm happy to take a look at it.
Yeah, I'll be more than happy to do so, because actually having algorithms that monitor anti-Semitism is great, but what very important is to know what is anti-Semitism and what should be monitored and perhaps being removed. And as it said a minute ago, I do not think you are anti-Semite.
It's the most ridiculous thing ever. I mean, honestly, it was like, this is like the most absurd thing I could possibly imagine, frankly.
Yeah. I know that, Mr. Mas, but you own and manage a platform which unfortunately many anti-Semites use to generate anti-Semitism. We have had Kenya, we have had the Jewish space laser, and daily there is more and more. So the question is, how could we bring this gap? I mean, how could X better reflect your own values toward the Jewish people?
Well, I think, as it was articulated earlier, I think my values do match that of the Jewish people. Perhaps not everyone, but I think most. Just knowledge, reading, understanding, debating, these are all Jewish values, and I very much agree with those. The Jewish people are learned people. People of, not of one book, but of many books. And I greatly admire that. As a rather bookish person myself.
Ilan, thousands of students and youngest from Europe report to us on the demonization they experience on social network when they identify themselves as Jewish or support of Israel. And that's not only just on social media, but it's also actually after they translate into actual physical harm. What can be done about that from this perspective?
Yeah, well, like I said, if our system is not working in some way, we're certainly happy to fix it. I think it's what, and perfection is not a reasonable expectation, to be clear, when we've got 500 million interactions per day on the system. So if one cherry picks here, one can find the 500 millionth worst thing that was said, and it's statistically speaking, it's going to be pretty bad. But that is no way reflective of the vast amount of communication that's occurring. I think we're doing a pretty good job, and we care about doing a better job over time. As I said, the operating principle is serve the greater good of humanity, and that if people look back 10 years, 20 years, or even longer, look back on the actions that we're taking here with the X platform, that the general conclusion is it was a net force for good for human civilization. That's my goal, and I think we're making progress in that direction.
Okay, we will now move to Michal Kotter.
Yeah, but we're also open to criticism. I value critical feedback because critical feedback allows one to be less wrong. So I always worry and sometimes reflect: am I losing my feedback loop? Am I, to quote Scarface, getting high in my own supply? Because that's a danger that one faces. Now, I actually find that the X platform is helpful as a source of criticism of myself. There's lots of people who do not like me actually on the X platform, and make that clear. And that if I say something, they will trash me or contradict me, or in some cases I might actually say something that I thought was true, but then it turns out I was inaccurate. What I said was inaccurate, and then I get community noted, which isn't. By the way, I think community notes is very powerful for adding context and actually combating disinformation. I pay very close attention to the notes, the ones that receive prominence, and and I have to say it's really working quite well. Just so that everyone on the call understands, broadly speaking, the way the community notes works is that people who historically have had different views based on how they've reviewed other notes must agree on a note in order for it to be surfaced. This is actually very, very helpful and very difficult to gain. And there's actually a white paper on community notes that's, I think, very interesting to read. All the community notes software is fully open source. All of the ratings are fully open source, meaning you can, based on the code and the data, you can actually recreate why a node surfaced or didn't surface. Transparency, I think, is a key to trust. So if somebody says sort of like potentially, some kind of Holocaust denial thing, then they will get community noted. And this applies, by the way, to heads of state. It applies to me. It applies to our biggest advertisers. We've actually lost some advertising money because in a few cases, advertisers made claims that were not entirely accurate, and it got community noted.
Okay.
But the point is that community notes applies to everyone, even if you're head of state or the principal owner of the platform. I think it's a very powerful tool. So overall, I think things are actually pretty good. But I'm not saying they're perfect, and we want to work to make them better.
Okay, we'll now move to Michal Kotter-Wunsch, Israel's Special Envoy for Combating Anti-Semitism. Michal, please. Okay. For some reason.
You know what? With respect to the visit to the concentration camp, I give it a tentative yes, because I actually do need to travel to, as it is, I need to visit out the Giga Berlin factory, because our team there has been doing amazing work. And it's probably time for me to visit there anyway. And so I'll consider it a tentative yes.
Okay, we will now move then to Rabbi Cooper. Rabbi Cooper, please.
Yes, thank you for having me on. And it's been probably the longest anyone has been able to mute this rabbi, so it's a very humbling experience. So thank you for that, Elon. Also, I have resent you now a letter asking for you to consider the IRA definition. I was one of the lead signatories. I think there are 110 Jewish groups around the world that sent it. So if you can take a look, I don't have to go over the territory again, but it is an important decision to make to giving a working definition.
Sure.
Simon Wiesenthal.
Okay, I'll definitely take a look at it.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I worked with Simon Wiesenthal for 29 years, and in 1980, he was asked at a Midwest university, could the Holocaust happen again? This was his answer. This was a man who lost 89 members of his family in the Nazi Holocaust, barely survived himself, and became the famous Nazi hunter seeking justice.
I think we lost Rabbi Cooper for some technical reason.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you. Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Not exactly, but I worked with the late Mr. Simon Wiesenthal for 29 years. He's our namesake, and he was asked in 1980 at a university, could it happen again? Could the Holocaust happen again? His answer was, if you have organized hate, a crisis in society, plus technology, anything is possible. And when he was referring to technology, he's referring to the technology that the Nazis had: radio, newsreels. Today, we wouldn't even consider it a technological blip. But he said, had that technology been around in 1492, no Jew would have survived in Spain, no Catholic would have survived in England, and no Protestant would have survived in France. So I think it's important, at least for us as an establishing approach. Also, since you spoke a great deal about the idea of change and repentance, if you haven't read it yet, you should probably read his book called The Sunflower. It goes to the heart of the questions that have been raised today. I want to take you, since I'm the second oldest person, I think, or third on this call. 30 years ago, we established a project here at the Simon Wiesenthal Center called Digital Terrorism and Hate. And I actually went to see the first founders of Twitter in that building in San Francisco. And basically what they told me back then was, at the beginning, we just want free speech. We just want the marketplace. Everybody should be heard. We're totally against censorship, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Despite our sending them examples of how organized racist, bigots, haters, and terrorists were leveraging their platform, it took the United States congressional hearings. I think Dorsey was the guy at that time, where they told him ISIS at its power was deploying 200,000 tweets a day. And that was finally what got their attention. And if I may just say, because I'm not a technological wonk, I would like to actually send my technology people up to San Francisco to meet with your folks. But when we talked, someone mentioned asymmetrical. It came out a couple of times. Here's the way we approach it. I think on the fight or the discussions over free speech and censorship, especially what's happened in the last couple of years with fake news and everything else, we're looking at a different asymmetrical war, which is we can meet any of these hateful ideas and the conspiratorial nut jobs in the marketplace of ideas. But what's actually going on is they're leveraging access to the platforms, including yours, in order to market their ideas, in order to recruit, in order to fundraise. So if we're in a debating society, I'm all with you, and with Alan Dershowitz, etc. What we need to look at together, based on your algorithms, is what tweaks need to take place. How do we make sure Goyim International does it, which it currently does use the platform in order to send people to Telegram, and then other folks will take their hateful material that's thrown on the lawns of millions of Americans across the United States. How do we make it more difficult? How do we degrade their marketing capabilities, not what it is that they have to say? I think that's a core piece. And one other thing I'd like to bring up is that I also wear a second hat. I've been with the Simon Wiesenthal Center in the last 45 years. I head up our global social action agenda. But I'm also now a member and currently the chairman of the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom, which is a congressionally mandated sort of watchdog group. Last week, I hosted in the U.S. Senate hearings on what's just going on in Eastern India, as an example, because we look at 28 countries. And I want to say here, from wearing both of my elements, I salute you for what you've done for the women of Iran, for what you did for the people of Ukraine, and making sure and seeing that you have a worldview, that you want to help give voice to the voiceless. And I think this is another area that we should be talking about. I'll be in touch with you privately, but I'm going to invite you to keynote one of our hearings on technology and what's going on in China and elsewhere in Asia, Vietnam, et cetera, But if you notice the article in the Washington Post the other day, how the folks in India are trying to occasionally shut things off. They know that it's being used to spread riots and all the rest. But at the end of the day, the most, I can't even talk about the details, but the horrors of those riots only came to the attention of the world because of social media. So the idea of also being there, sometimes it can be 3 zip codes that may be shut down, but the idea of continuing your leadership, and I think this is the most important part, with all due respect. I mean, I like the discussions and debates. I don't rabbinate. Both of the youngsters who you had, the first one, Ben, he graduated our high school, and I'm a proud product of Yeshiva University. But you're an extremely powerful world player. And so, you know, Mr. Wiesenthal said it, everybody says it. Words have consequence. You know, he married his childhood sweetheart. He was an architect, and his entire world was destroyed because he was a Jew. So for us, I know you know it. You are, I think, naturally drawn to the Jewish people, and we deeply appreciate it. And ideas do count, which is important. You know, we're not talking to the Wizard of Oz. We're talking to a fellow citizen who, frankly, is more powerful than a lot of heads of state. So, both from the point of view of hopefully adopting the IRA definition, give our technological experts, of which I am not, a chance to sit down in San Francisco with your people, because they have specific things they want to bring up. And finally, you should look at our commission, because we look at human rights through the lens of religious freedom. And when you take a look of what he will do to try to break those people who have faith, defending those faithful is the job of religious people who are agnostic, and people whose religion is not to believe in God. That is the litmus test of our day. So, you know, I hope you'll come down to LA to the Museum of Tolerance. We'd love to take you around. But most importantly, you know, we're in this for the long range, and we are inspired and guided, frankly, by the amazing humanity of a man named Simon Wiesenthal.
No, and obviously he was a great man, no question about it. So, you know, it's worth noting that, you know, part of what really drove, and I'm sure I'm telling people on this call who already know it, but I think maybe the public doesn't. But Hitler and the Nazis were extremely like censorious. They dramatically they obviously they exercised censorship on anything pro-Semitic or anything that would counteract the anti-Semitic arguments. And they would even have, you know, SA brown shirts shouting down, like literally going to colleges and shouting down anyone who was trying to make an argument in favor of the Jewish people. So it's like the Nazis loved censorship big time. So, you know, that's you know, just a interesting point. We have to give, you know, anyway. But like I said, the overarching goal here is to create a force for good, not a force for, you know, that improves the amount of love in the world, not and diminishes the amount of hate. So, you know, improving the net happiness of humanity as a whole. You know, and like I said, I think we've made some progress, and we will continue to make progress and continue to solicit negative feedback, critical feedback that can allow the system to be a better force for good. And we just, doing so, obviously just need to be careful that we do not, you know, as the saying goes.
Thank you so much, everybody. That was phenomenal.
I just wanted to say, you know, that while the road to hell, frankly, is obviously paved mostly with bad intentions, once in a while there's a good intention paving stone, and we just need to make sure that we don't, you know, in sort of seeking to promote, you know, love and understanding, that in the process, if we are if there's too much censorship, inadvertently creating a backlash that increases the amount of hate. and I think we want to keep this dialogue going, and we want to, like I said, keep having critical feedback and keep looking at ways to be better. And I think just having this dialogue is good. And for those that harbor hatred for any group, whether it's Jewish people or some other group, I think we can promote understanding and promote forgiveness and promote and help them understand that actually some of the things they believe that are causing them to hate another group are perhaps false. That's really what we should be aiming for.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. This was fantastic. Thank you so much to my co-host Ben. Thank you so much to all the guests who joined, and thank you most of all to Elon. Thank you so much for having us on this platform, for engaging in this discussion.
You're most welcome. Thank you everyone for your great feedback, and it's an honor to speak with everyone, and a very intelligent group. So thank you for setting up.